I'm pretty much addicted to everything that gives me an ounce of joy. Food, sex, love, sugar, exercise, yoga, meditation. This is my first time public speaking, so I'm probably going to get addicted to public speaking now. Thanks a lot, Sam. But my main addiction, the thing that I am 100% powerless to, is alcohol. I'm an alcoholic in recovery. I've been in recovery for 2 years. And thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a struggle, and I don't know much about the science bit that we've just listened to, but I do know how it feels to experience it firsthand and go through alcohol addiction and the obsession, the hopelessness, and I can speak from the heart about that subject. So I just want to talk about how I got there, what it was like, and how it is now that I'm in recovery. I was a really depressed teenager, like super, super depressed. I grew up in an environment where I felt very unloved and unworthy, and I kind of stem all my addiction issues. So I'm in 12-step recovery program now, so there's a lot of self-reflecting. 3 times a week, I go into like the back room of a church hall with a bunch of strangers. We talk about our feelings and why we can't drink beer like normal people. And I serve really crap coffee there. Stale biscuits. But a lot of my addiction issues have stemmed back to shame and the fact that I have very, very, very low self-esteem. I always have when I was younger. I still do now, but I'm working on it through my program. I grew up pretty much hating myself. I was ashamed of who I was. I was a problem child. I was rebellious. I was naughty. And I was told as a kid that I was wicked. I was bad. I couldn't do anything right. And that had a profound effect on me growing up. Because I just didn't like myself. Didn't like myself at all. I was just so ashamed. So when I first started drinking alcohol, I was like, oh, this blocks out all my feelings. Fantastic. I'm going to do more of this. And it worked for a while, and it made me confident. And as a kid, I had lots of friends as a teenager, lots and lots of friends, but I could never relate to anyone. I felt like an outsider. I was very other. But alcohol made me forget that I couldn't connect with these people, and it gave me like a false sense of connection. But it wasn't real, because I was drunk and couldn't remember it, and I was on another planet, basically. So I carried on drinking, and I chased that feeling throughout my teenage years and throughout my 20s and early 30s. Escapism was a really big thing for me as well, which is why I ended up on crack cocaine 2 years ago for some reason, because I wanted to escape my feelings. It was an unwillingness and an inability to manage my emotions. I spent pretty much like 10 years backpacking around the world, which was really fun. It became like a massive part of my identity. Like my family and friends were like, oh yeah, Abby, she's a world traveler, she's an adventurer. And I really liked seeing the world, but really I was doing it because I was running away from myself, I was running away from responsibilities, running away from my own feelings. And backpacking, I've kind of like put myself in a culture where it was okay to be drunk and high every day. In fact, it was encouraged. I ended up living in Laos for a few years, and working in a bar, and it was it was a little bit crazy. It was a lot of partying, and a lot of not taking on any responsibilities. But then it all caught up with me. I was escaping, I was on the run from my own feelings until it finally caught up with me. The year before I entered recovery was the worst year of my life. Now, I'm a person who feels a lot of pain and puts myself in a place of pain for prolonged amounts of time, longer than is necessary, because in AA you learn all about character defects, and I'm learning that self-pity is a huge one for me. So I was running away for those 10 years, backpacking around the world, until it all caught up with me. I couldn't escape anymore. My mental health issues just came to a head basically. I was living in Australia. I was very, very depressed. I was drinking about 2 bottles of vodka a day. The obsession with alcohol was just insane. Like, I had become insane. I'd wake up every morning, and then every time, when I felt a feeling or thought a thought, as soon as I opened my eyes, there was shame, regret, guilt, hatred, resentment. And then I had the physical need to drink alcohol. I'd wake up shaking. I wouldn't be able to remember what I did last night, and I was ashamed of that as well. So I'd start drinking straight away. And I'd carry on drinking throughout the day until I passed out. And then, so I was in Australia. I was terribly depressed. I was having very, very dark thoughts. And then I went back to Southeast Asia because I was so depressed. I was like, right, I know what's going to make me feel better. I'm going to go to Thailand. Yay. Rather than, get therapy and like work on myself and all that, I was like, no, I'll just drink cheap whiskey on a beach. Therapy. And then when I got to Southeast Asia, I met a man and I fell in love and I turned him into a drug. I got addicted to him. I put all my happiness, I put on this one person. I became obsessed with him. I was using him as a coping mechanism. Every time I felt a feeling, I was like, right, where's that man? Because he gives me dopamine and can make me feel better. And then he was from New York. I moved to New York with him and became terribly depressed again because he stopped working for me, just like alcohol stopped working for me and drugs stopped working for me. Eventually you do them so much, they make you feel good until they don't. And then my drinking got really bad again. He kicked me out. I ended up in Canada. I was on a self-destructive path. I'm also quite addicted to chaos as well. I don't really like a boring life, so I might like to make things like really difficult for myself. So I went to Canada and started smoking crack to deal with this breakup. I don't know what it is about me that takes things to so many extremes. Like, most people go through a breakup and then they like get a haircut or something to make them feel better. But I took really hard drugs. So I went on this huge crack bender. That didn't make me feel any better. So I was like, I know, I'll move across the country, I'll move somewhere else. That'll make me feel better. So it's escaping myself, escaping my feelings, changing my environment, changing my mental state. And then I got to the other side of Canada, and things were okay for about a day, and then my depression came back. And then I started drinking heavily again. I had a job, I lost it because I got blackout at work. By this point, I was drinking to blackout every day. And I was beyond caring. I stopped caring for myself, stopped caring for other people. I had no interests or hobbies anymore. I wasn't interested in spending time with people unless they would drink with me or it would lead to a drink. I was never present. Whenever I was like with people, I'd be thinking, when can I get my next drink? When can I sneak a drink? Just going in other people's houses, and as soon as they got their back turned, helping myself to their liquor cabinet. Because just always, there was a niggle in the back of my mind being like, drink alcohol, it will make you feel better. You hate yourself, so drink alcohol. And then so I lost my job, and then I ended up in a psych ward after a suicide attempt. And then I got out of the psych ward, and that still wasn't enough to get me sober. It still wasn't enough for me to kind of get my act together and think, hey, you're pretty close to death here. You're destroying your life. Like, maybe you should make some changes. No, I went straight to the liquor store and bought my alcohol. And then that's when the pandemic hit, and I came back home, moved back to the UK, into my mum's house, and kept on drinking, of course. And went on like a 2-week bender, and at the end of this bender, the end of this binge drinking time, I cleared my room of all the bottles. So I'd like stashed empty bottles with, like, by my bed. So I like put them all in a bag and kind of snuck downstairs with this clinking bag and threw them out. And then I sat on the end of my bed, and I can't describe, I know a lot of other people in recovery have had like a similar experience where you just have like an epiphany, kind of, and I just heard a little voice in my head just saying, like, do you want to live or die? Because it doesn't have to be this way. And then all of a sudden, everything just kind of made sense. And something clicked, something that had never clicked before. Nothing that happened to me, like the psych ward, suicide attempts, job loss, friend loss, everything like that. None of that gave me this epiphany. But just sitting on the end of the bed did. And then suddenly it just came to me, everything, all the puzzle pieces came together. And I just realized it was alcohol. I was powerless over it. It was destroying my life. It was my life. It had complete control over me. It made me a horrible person. It made me a very depressed person. And the only way that I could have a shot at a happy life would be to stop drinking it. And that was April 1st, 2020. And I haven't drank since or done any drugs. So thank you. And so this was in the pandemic. This was during lockdown. So I got sober by myself. I went to one AA meeting on Zoom and then quickly figured out that it wasn't for me. I was just very nervous and I felt very vulnerable and it was a lot. So I didn't go to another one. I just got sober by myself. I went full on abstinence, just stopped drinking. And then I didn't realize that addiction's a little bit more complex than that. That just because you take the alcohol away or the substance that you're addicted to, just because you take it away, it doesn't mean that your psyche's changed. It doesn't mean that you're better equipped with dealing with life, really. Like, I took the alcohol away, but I still have an alcoholic mind. So a year into recovery, I had pretty much had another mental breakdown. I wasn't drinking, but they call it a dry drunk when you stop drinking, but your alcoholic behavior is still coming out. And yeah, I was going on the same self-destructive spiral. I was having thoughts of self-hatred again. I was having dark thoughts again. And I was very confused. I was like, but I've stopped drinking. Like, why is this still happening? Why? So I sought out AA again, and now I'm in a 12-step program. And I'm realizing that, I actually have to do this inner work and kind of dig deep and make some changes and work on myself and kind of get into the real nitty-gritty as to why I have these self-destructive behaviors, why that is my first thought when I have like a difficult feeling. My first thought is I'm just going to destroy everything. And that's what I'm getting through my 12-step program. I go to the gym a lot. I use exercise as my coping mechanism. It's definitely probably another addiction. I do a little bit too much. And that helps me as well. Meditation, yoga, they seem quite, I don't know. They're quite hippie-ish, and you can't treat addiction just with meditation and yoga, but it helps. That's my story from start to finish, really. All I know now is that I do have a lot of work to do in recovery. I always felt like I'm 2 years into recovery, I felt like I was like a veteran, like I was cured. And very quickly, now I'm meeting people who have 40 years of sobriety and they're still going to 3 AA meetings a week. They're still working their program. They work on themselves every day. And I'm realizing now it is a lifelong process that you have to work on every day. You have to work on yourself. You have to study. I didn't know there was going to be such studying involved, but that's okay. And I'm only at the beginning of my program, but I'm working at it every day.